Today's video is sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community that offers thousands of classes on topics such as video editing, freelancing, graphic design, and much more. Have you ever wanted to create your own YouTube channel but don't know where to begin? Skillshare classes can teach you everything you need to know. For a limited time, Skillshare is offering subscribers of Underworld a free 1-month subscription to start exploring today. Click the link in the description to begin your free trial. But more on that later. Our planet's oceans are some of the least known, most treacherous areas of our planet. It is here where extreme storms, rogue waves, and human error have led to some of the most notable disasters in recorded history. From the General Slocum to the MV Lejula, here are 5 maritime disasters that shocked the world. This story starts on the morning of June 15, 1904. A group from St. Mark's Evangelical Lutheran Church, composed mostly of women and children, boarded the General Slocum, New York's largest and most splendid excursion steamer, as they celebrated their annual end-of-school outing. There was even a German band playing on the deck. It was a jovial day, full of laughter and good times. Spirits were high as the bell rang in the engine room. By all accounts, there were about 1,350 passengers aboard, headed for a picnic ground on Long Island. As the ship reached 97th Street, some of the crew of the lower deck saw puffs of smoke rising through the wooden floorboards and ran below to the second cabin. Here, they discovered a fire had broken out in the lower decks of the all-wooden ship, and none of the crew had been trained on how to fight fires. The flames spread quickly, engulfing everything and everyone on board. The captain, in a mad scramble, tried steering the huge vessel to shore, but was unable to get there in time. It turns out that the life preservers on board were old and rotten, unable to keep anyone afloat. The hoses used to fight fires were also rotted through. Because of this, the captain, who actually survived, was taken to court and sentenced to 10 years in prison for the neglect of his ship. Ultimately, though, he only served 4 because he was pardoned by President William Howard Taft on Christmas Day 1912. With nearly 1,000 passengers losing their lives, this was the deadliest disaster in New York City's history until September 11, 2001. For hundreds and hundreds of years, ships have been vital to transporting goods. From time to time, though, these goods can be incredibly dangerous to transport or store. Acid, gunpowder, dynamite. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, these were volatile things that would need to be loaded onto ships and transported. No doubt it made the various captains nervous. One small miscalculation could spell disaster. This is exactly what occurred on December 6, 1917. The SS Mont Blanc was a freighter that was carrying around 2,300 tons of picric acid, 200 tons of TNT, and 10 tons of gun cotton. On that day, it was set to dock at Halifax Harbor in Nova Scotia, Canada. However, as the ship was making her way through the Narrows towards Bedford Basin, she was involved in a collision with another ship, the SS Imo. This Norwegian ship was rather small, much smaller than the Mont Blanc. When the ships collided, the initial damage to the Mont Blanc was actually very minor. However, it was enough to topple some barrels of cargo, causing a fire to break out on one of her lower decks. Within the span of a few minutes, the fire had spread and engulfed much of the ship. Fearing she would explode, the captain ordered the crew to abandon ship. 15 minutes after the fire started, it finally set off the highly explosive cargo. The ship was blown apart, and a powerful shockwave spread across the land at more than 1,000 meters per second. The center of the explosion reached temperatures of more than 5,000 degrees Celsius. Surprisingly, all of the crew except for one survived. But, in total, 2,000 people died, and another 9,000 were injured. 1,600 houses were leveled by the explosion, with another 12,000 damaged. In short, most of the city was destroyed. At the time, this was the largest human-made explosion in history. It is truly unfortunate when disaster strikes as a result of poor decision-making. However, the captains and crews of various ships are held to incredibly high standards when it comes to timelines. Sometimes, these standards result in a poor decision being made. This was the case in 2008 with the Filipino ferry known as the Princess of the Stars. This ship was the grandest in the fleet of ships owned by the Filipino shipping company known as Sulpicio Line. On June 20th of 2008, it left the port of Manila en route to Cebu City. However, just on the horizon was Typhoon Fengshen, locally known as Typhoon Frank. It was a Class 2 typhoon that had just made landfall at a nearby island. However, the Princess of the Stars was allowed to sail because the vessel was large enough to stay afloat as long as it sailed along the outskirts of the storm. However, the storm changed course without warning, overtaking the vessel and its 855 passengers. At midday on June 21st, the ferry sent out a distress signal, but radio contact was lost at 12:30 local time. A local mayor sent out a speedboat to check on the status of the ship. They confirmed that the ferry had a hole in the hull and was partially submerged, and that several bodies had been found nearby. Rescue efforts were attempted, but the waves were too big to reach the ship. Finally, nearly 24 hours after rescuers lost radio contact, they were able to make it to the ship. Over the course of a few weeks, rescue efforts were done. But at the end of it all, less than half of the occupants' bodies were ever found, and only 48 of them were confirmed to have survived. It was a devastating and tragic disaster that could have been avoided. When it comes to maritime disasters, ferries seem to be an all too common story. There are many reasons why we commonly see ferries involved in these incredible disasters. First, many of them are privately owned, meaning that things like repairs are sometimes not attended to properly. Also, ferries typically carry lots of passengers, making death tolls higher. And finally, many ferries are not inspected properly, leading to a number of hazards going unnoticed. On September 28, 1994, a ferry known as the MS Estonia was sailing from Estonia's capital city of Tallinn to Stockholm, Sweden. On board were about 980 people. As the ship was sailing through the Baltic Sea, the locks on the ship's bow doors failed, letting in large amounts of water. Many of the ship's passengers were trapped inside as the ship started going down. Finally, it sank, with only 137 people surviving. The official report in 1997 listed the failed locks. However, in recent years, the Discovery Channel took teams into the Baltic Sea in order to explore the wreckage. What they discovered was that there was a hole in the ship's hull, a fact that has never been listed in the original findings. It is not known why this happened, but officials from Estonia, Sweden, and Finland have agreed to come together in order to get a better determination of what exactly went wrong that day. The MTS Oceanos was a Greek-owned cruise ship first launched in 1952. Throughout her history, she went through many different owners and name changes, finally being bought by Epirotiki Lines in 1976. On August 3, 1991, Oceanos set sail on her final voyage. The seas were rather rough, but nothing the ship couldn't handle. Repairs to a waste disposal system that were not completed would ultimately be the ship's downfall. This, combined with the freak waves nearby, led to the engine room taking on substantial water. When passengers went to go look for the crew, they were shocked to discover the ship was unmanned. One of the passengers sent out a mayday call, prompting a large rescue operation from several countries and international media coverage. Of the 571 people on board, all were rescued. The following day, the ship rolled over and sank. The captain and the crew were all heavily criticized for abandoning ship without even warning the passengers of the danger they were in. The captain and some crew members were eventually convicted of negligence. The MV Lejula was a Senegalese government-owned ferry that started operating in early 1990. It measured around 260 feet long and had a capacity for 536 passengers and 35 vehicles. In terms of technology, it was equipped with some of the latest and most high-tech equipment in the industry. But around 2001, it was taken out of commission for a while in order to have repairs done. It was finally put back into service in mid-2002. It was around this time when the Lejula would set sail for the last time. On September 26, 2002, the ship set sail from southern Senegal to Dakar. Although she was designed to carry a maximum of 580 passengers, an estimated 1,863 passengers are believed to have been on board. Around 10 p.m., the crew called in and reported good sailing conditions. Everything seemed to be going well. Then, around 11 p.m., the ship sailed into a storm off the coast of Gambia. As a result of rough seas and wind, the ferry capsized, throwing passengers and cargo into the sea, all within a 5-minute time frame. Government rescue teams did not arrive at the scene until the morning following the accident, even though a local fisherman rescued some survivors. It is believed that a large number of people probably survived, only to drown while awaiting rescue. The Lejula remained capsized but afloat until around 3 p.m., at which point it finally sank stern first, taking with it those who were unable to get out of the ship, which were estimated to be in the hundreds. Stories like these are why many people do not go out in boats, no matter how large they are. Maritime disasters remain one of the most terrifying types of disasters imaginable. Let's just hope that the various governmental entities throughout the world continue to monitor and regulate the various maritime industries. If you want to create your own YouTube videos just like this, but don't know video editing, script writing, or even where to begin, then you should check out Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creators. We would recommend the YouTube Success class by Marcus Brownlee. Here, you can learn the blueprint from having a video idea to seeing the final product. Skillshare is curated specifically for learning, meaning there are no ads and they're always launching new premium classes. For a limited time, Skillshare is offering the first 1,000 people to sign up with the link in the description a completely free 1-month trial to their platform. So, what are you waiting for? Begin your creative journey with Skillshare today. And with that, thank you for watching, and we hope to see you in the next one.